Are you tired of new champions looking like they are the same person in different outfits?
Yeah.
Tired of old champions looking like they were made by sneezing at a modeling program?
Yeah.
Do you feel like League's champion design has went downhill? You, my friend, are in the right place because today we're gonna take a deeper look on League's modern character design and rework some of the most hideous champions in the game to better fit League's new aesthetic. So let's pretend you haven't seen any of TBScan's videos and listen to me ramble about stuff I'm probably not qualified to talk about. Here are the timestamps, just in case you only want to see the reworks. Before a League of Legends champion is born, it goes through a careful process called design. Not only gameplay design, but also visual design. A good character design should tell you everything you need to know about the champion just by simply looking at them. You should be able to tell how does the said champion fit into the universe, what role do they play, what is their personality, and what kind of life do they live. It also allows the player to connect with the said champion on a deeper level. If the champion is designed well, it can feel like an actual living person with a personality, rather than just a bunch of code and pixels on a screen. A good character design lets the champion live outside the Summoner's Rift, making their way straight into players' hearts, inspiring them to make art, cosplay, animation, and other very questionable things to show their love and affection. When you're designing a champion, you have to think of three main principles: appeal, originality, and storytelling. Think of it like you're distributing stats in an MMO. You have a limited amount of points, and you have to find the perfect balance to make it optimal. Appeal assures that the general public will like your character by giving them qualities like attractive body or nice face. Characters with a lot of appeal sell really well, look good on promo materials, and they draw new players into the game. Just imagine a casual Instagram user seeing an ad for Wild Rift and being like, "This game has boob, me play." People also like to play these champions because they like to imagine themselves in their shoes. It gives them the feeling that they are the ones with perfect body or flawless hair. Of course, appeal does not always have to mean boob. People can be drawn to all sorts of things. Some people like to imagine themselves as the most badass monster they can think of. Or some people just like to be the cutest little creature. However, it just so happens to be that the boob is the best strategy for selling merchandise. Because some people like to jerk off during loading screen, I guess. But you have to be careful, because if you carelessly put too much stats into appeal, you'll end up with over-sexualized character that yes, makes a lot of money, but you'll sacrifice a lot of originality and storytelling, which may leave you with generic soulless character. Originality makes your character stand out. Original characters have a creative and never before seen concept that makes you think about boundaries of what's even possible. A girl with metal magic that can transform her armor into horse, a literal personification of death itself in the form of lamb and wolf, galactic dragon that shapes the stars and galaxies. I hope you get the point by now. Just the concept itself should make you go, I've never seen that before. But once again, you have to be careful. You can't put points only into originality, because if you have a great concept and you don't squeeze some appeal into it, you'll end up with a great character that nobody plays because average League player loses their attention span after 3 seconds of not seeing any boob. Storytelling is kind of an aesthetic thing, so it may seem like it's not worth investing your resources into it, but if you do, it can bring so much life into your character. It lets the character speak for itself without you having to read their lore. Subtle storytelling can come in many forms, like scars indicating a life full of battles and fights, or even little trinkets or accessories that can tell you more about the character's past. And sometimes, even the way the characters move can tell you a lot about who they are. Just look at all these walk cycles and tell me they're not full of visual storytelling. Character design became a widely debated topic lately, because people noticed that most of the new champions are just hot anime babes or walking pairs of six-packs. Except Renata. I was really genuinely surprised that Riot is still willing to show actual wrinkles on their champion's face. It spawned countless memes about how all of the new champions look the same and how we desperately need a new monster champion. It basically got to the point where people are pretty much getting heart attacks when they see that the new champion has boob, and it's not a nightmarish Lovecraftian monster from the deepest corners of hell. And I get it. It's like getting the same shitty gift for Christmas every year. It feels like Riot has set the default value at maximum appeal and uninstalled the other two sliders. And any Riot employee can just fart out a new pretty girl at this point. But let's be real, it's not a mystery why Riot repeatedly chooses to go with this route. They openly said that mass appeal has become their biggest priority. But we can't just get angry and blame the developers. Sometimes designing a champion isn't as easy as pushing few sliders. You see, Riot is a company, and they have shareholders that want their money, and employees that they want to pay, and the merch that they want to sell. And as a Riot designer, you have to think about the marketability of the champions you're designing. Riot designers are not amateurs, they are still capable of doing some great concepts, but they are still employees of a company that wants profit, so sometimes they just have to raise the appeal slider, whether they want or not. As a side note, you've probably noticed that this sex sells mentality has started affecting skins too. I don't think it's that big of a problem because they're just skins, but just take a look. I am physically incapable of telling these people apart. Is this Lux? Kaisa? Gregas? LeBlanc? No idea. But it wasn't always like this. There were simpler times. Yo, bro, are you okay? You've bashed your head pretty bad. What? Shirtless assassins? Animated series? Seraphine? What are you talking about? Let's play some Dominion. Oh yes, the good old days. You see, League of Legends is getting pretty old at this point. Over 10 years to be exact. Some of your teammates in your solo queue are probably younger than the game itself. Which is sad. When League was in its early days, Riot didn't have such a refined process of champion design. At the beginning, they were just farting out new champions left and right every few weeks to fill the small roster that they had. In fact, they were pumping them out so quickly that they didn't even really have time to think about their design, which resulted in a number of pretty funky and uninspired champions. They didn't even bother spending any points on this one. Take old Pantheon for example. He was designed before Mount Targon and the aspects were even a thing. He was basically just a Spartan warrior ripped straight from the movie 300. He didn't have any Targon symbology, no storytelling details that would tie into Runeterra at all. I don't even remember him having any personality. And this applies to all of the old champions. They are just stereotypes without any interesting gimmicks that would set them apart from any other depiction of that stereotype. And since Riot is adding better and better looking champions at a rapid pace, those older ones are starting to feel a bit off. Just imagine a game of League where you have a champion like Vex that has fully animated facial features and a living shadow, next to Zilean, whose model is comprised of like 4 polygons. That's why I love champion reworks so much. I'd even say I like them more than new champion releases. I love to see old champions from the roster get some love and finally see them fit in with the rest of the modern champions. Sadly, we don't see it that often because VGUs and ASUs take a lot of time and resources from Riot. Older champions tend to have a lot of skins that also need new designs. You also have to take into account that many of you already own a lot of these older champions. You probably even have a skin or two on them that you never use. Which means there is a low opportunity for Riot to make return on their investment, because they don't generate that much revenue in skin sales. And that's why I decided to step in and make some custom reworks while we wait for the real ones. In this little section I call Robator's Custom Rework. I'll figure out a better name next time, okay? And before we start, I just want to inform you that I'm far from being a professional artist or concept artist. These are just some fun ideas I thought might be interesting to you. I haven't prepared any abilities or 3D models. Last time I tried to do some modeling, I accidentally managed to summon this demon spawn, so I vowed to never do it again. With all of that out of the way, let's get started, and please take everything you're about to see with a boulder-sized pinch of salt. So for my first candidate, I chose Tryndamere. He didn't have much luck in the VGU poll, and it looks like he's not getting updated anytime soon. I personally didn't vote for him, but I think he has some great potential as a Freljordian tribe leader with ability to repress death. The main keywords for this rework are tribe leader, darken influence, and iron boar. Did you know that the reason why Tryndamere keeps saying
"My right arm is a lot stronger than my left arm"
is not because of his crippling porn addiction, but because in his lore he had a clash with Aatrox that resulted in his arm being tainted with darkened blood magic. He is not wielding a darkened weapon like Kayn or Varus, he just has some sort of darkened power that allows him to escape death when things go bad. And I'd like to incorporate it into my design because in his current one it is not really visible. Riot said that they want to preserve his ultimate, and I think that's a great opportunity to show what the darkened blood magic actually does. During his ultimate, he can transition from a Freljordian warrior to a semi-demonic warlord fueled by the bloodthirst of Darkins. Freljord has a lot of animalistic demigods. You might know some of them from the game like Ornn, Eviana or Volibear, but there are many more in the lore like the Iron Boar, Two-Headed Raven and the Seal Sister. Tryndamere worships the Iron Boar fellow, and I'd like to somehow show it in my design. I didn't want this to be a full redesign like Scion or Urgot, I just wanted to modernize Tryndamere's current look. So first I started focusing on his helmet, because together with his sword it plays a huge role in his recognizability. I started sketching some helmets with varying shapes of horns. While sketching I tried to remember to incorporate the Iron Boar symbology. So I slapped some tasks into it and surprisingly it kinda worked. It has already worked in the Beast Hunter Tryndamere, so why wouldn't it work now? Then I tried to find out if there was a better shape for the tasks. And I figured out that the most basic ones work the best. Then I tried some more iterations of the horns, but I landed on this. It is kinda similar to the original one, with the addition of tusks and horns roughly alluding to the Darken shape language. But not too much though, because I wanted to focus on the Darken theme on his sword and arm. Speaking of which, his sword didn't have a particularly bad design, it just needed a cleaner shape and some Freljordian ornaments. So I tried some variations, hoping to find a good shape for the blade and the hilt. And then I tried some more until I found one that I was pretty comfortable with. And after that I tried to play with it to figure out some finer details, and I ended up with this. And I know what you're asking, where is the darkened stuff you've been yammering about? And to that I say, just wait until he presses his R. Then I looked at the possibilities of his facial hair, and decided that maybe it is finally time for Tryndamere to grow his beard a little longer. With these fundamentals out of the way, let's focus on his body and outfit. Tryndamere's power fantasy comes from being a strong, furious barbarian, so him having some muscles makes sense. Now let's do something with that arm. I like the idea that he's trying to hide his darkened corruption with simple bandages, so I think we can keep it. Now let's give this bad boy a makeover. I wanted to add more colors to his palette, because now it's mostly grey and blue, and it looks kinda boring. So I figured that brown colors of the leather and white color of the fur will do the job. And trust me, he's gonna need it, because in Freljord it is really cold. Iceborne or not, he desperately needs some warm clothes. I was going through many versions until I found this. This was really close to something that I was okay with. I just wasn't sure about the bottom part. I feel like his skirt thingy is too iconic to remove. Yeah, okay, that should work. So this is the final version of his basic form, which you would see for the most of the time. Now I wanted to focus on the Darkened Warlord part, which you would see during his ultimate. So let's get back to sketching. Going into this, I knew I had to include some things like his iconic red burning eyes, every blue part of his visuals turning red to indicate something important is happening, and I really like the idea of his sword becoming one entity with his arm, like if he physically couldn't drop it because the only thing he can do during this state is to fight. Main thing I wanted to figure out is how much I wanted the Darkin corruption to take him. I didn't want him to go full Darkin because that might be confusing gameplay wise, but I also didn't want to downplay it. I even tried to explore the idea of him growing a pair of wings like Aatrox, but that would be stepping into Swain's territory a little bit too much. So after a number of tries I ended up with this. I think I found the right spot for the Darkin corruption. Now his right arm is definitely stronger than his left arm. As I said, I didn't want to go full Darkin mode because, as I recently discovered, Wild Rift version of Demon Blade Tryndamere had the brilliant idea of turning this concept into actual skin. So with this version, we can take it a step further and turn up the Darkin vibes up to 11. And that pretty much concludes the idea for the rework of Tryndamere's visuals. As I said, I don't have any 3D models or abilities. I won't even be attempting to create any splash art because my painting skills are pretty miserable and I know it would just look bad. I've prepared one more rework, but I don't know how to transition, so we'll continue after these brief messages.
Wow, what's that?
Is that a super cool custom card with your avatar that is displayed at the end of each of my videos? Wow. I want one too! How do I get one? Well, that's really simple. By supporting me on Patreon or becoming a member of this channel here on YouTube, you can get your own super cool custom card with your avatar that is displayed at the end of each of my videos. So what are you waiting for? Do it now!
Or else.
And while you're at it, did you know that only 2 people watching this video are actually subscribed? So subscribe and smash that like button. Decimate it. Absolutely obliterate it. What am I doing anymore? And to wrap it all up, I've prepared one more champion to rework. Malzahar. I know that he was not in the VGU poll and that there are way more champions that would deserve rework more than him, But I feel like Malzahar has a ton of untapped potential that is trapped beneath the surface of his mediocre design. To be honest, with Tryndamere I had a general idea on what I wanted to do, because he just needed some minor tweaks. But with Malzahar it is going to be a bit more tricky because, in my opinion, his design straight up sucks. I don't like the fact that Riot is trying to make him into yet another pretty boy. We've seen it lately in his skins and I really don't know what to think about it. I believe that his power fantasy should come from the fact that he can open void rifts to summon void monsters and infect you with the visions of the void, and not from his perfect hair and steaming abs. I really don't want him to become Kaisa 2.0. It's like his design cannot decide between being a pretty BF or badass Voidmancer. What I really like about his design, on the other hand, is that weird hole on the top of his head that symbolizes that his mind is completely lost to the void. I think it's a nice piece of storytelling and I definitely want to keep it in some way. I believe that if Riot were to rework him, they would keep his ultimate in some shape or form. I know people don't like being suppressed, but I think they would just probably turn it into Skillshot. But we're not here to discuss his gameplay. I want to visualize how it would look like. So, the main goals of this rework are to really sell the fantasy of void-spreading cult leader and to tone down the appeal. A lot. But before all of that, we need to discuss something that has been bothering me ever since I started playing League. This piece of... This little was always a part of his design and it never served any purpose. Like it was purposefully put there just to annoy me. I couldn't wait until I removed this thing and leave it to burn in hell. But then, I had an idea. What if we tried to make it work? So my first instinct was to change it from a useless dagger to some kind of ancient void relic that could literally rip apart our reality and open those void rifts. The idea is that he would have this relic floating around him and use it to cast his ability, like Irelia or Shen. Void should be the manifestations of your worst nightmares. A force that twists you in a way you should not be able to comprehend with your human mind. Oops, sorry, wrong picture, I meant to show this one. Of course Malzahar is not technically a void monster, so he shouldn't be totally messed up. I did some sketches where I tried to find out to what degree is he really corrupted. I wanted to have it a kind of mystery element, where you're left wondering if he's really in the control of his void powers, or if the void powers have the control over him. I wanted to make him really withered and malnourished, since void literally sucks your life force out. And Malzahar probably isn't the type of guy who eats or sleeps, and the power of the void is probably the only thing that keeps him alive at this point. So I tried to make it visually clear. As you've probably noticed, I kinda like the direction of this void corrupted skin, creating a sort of vitiligo effect on his body, so I tried to play with this idea a bit more. But then I realized that if I had a giant hole in my head, I would probably try to hide it. So I tried more variations with some head covers, and the one that I liked the most was this. Now it was time to give him a new outfit. I tried multiple combinations of robes and armor pieces and it proved to be really difficult to pick one that I liked the most because all of them had something going for them. So at the end I tried to take all those pieces that I liked the most and combine them into one design. Before we get into design of his dagger and voidlings, let's check out what I did to his ultimate. As I said, it's essentially the same thing, but my iteration directly utilizes the design choices I made. And I know this is gonna sound weird, but stay with me here. So, he would stretch out his void hole and grab you with it. And after successfully landing, he would do his regular nether grasp thing. This version of his ultimate, alongside sounding incredibly dirty, introduces a theme of body horror that most of the other void champions desperately lack. So with that out of the way, let's design his new and improved dagger that I mentioned earlier. So as before, I did some sketches exploring the ideas of the dagger being crude and handmade, as well as it being more ceremonial. And I decided that the more ceremonial way was better, since it would be an Ekafian relic infused with the power of the void before... you know. So I tried more designs and once again mix and match some elements until I found this. And with that out of the way, we move on to the last part of his design. The voidlings. And honestly, I don't think they need any changes at all. They gave them a slight redesign in the Warriors music video and I think they look just fine. So sorry if that disappoints you, but I think we can just keep it as it is. And that brings us to the end of the video, where I thank you for your attention. If you made it all the way through here, you're an absolute legend. If you have any ideas I should have implemented or if you think I should have done a better job, please tell me in the comments. I'd also like to give a huge thank you to my patrons. Speeditg, Maru, Jblask, Jinnxie and BebopTurtle. As well as a fresh member of this channel, Tikka Nastu. You wouldn't be seeing this video without them. So I say my last goodbye because it looks like my animation budget is running out and I'm starting to slowly fade away.